think the bottom line, people want to age gracefully. You don't want to all of a sudden wake up one day and say, "Wow, I've had a bad week." Well, usually it's several years leading up to that bad week, and you finally you have these little niggling aches and pains. You're not recovering well. Your mind and body aren't flowing together. Anyway, excuse me, Vanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. So what I was saying is, Dave, uh, you know how there are often fads coming out about different things. There was a time when L-argine was the fad. People was, oh, you must have L-argine in your bodybuilding. And how can we ensure everybody that CBD is not just a fad, but it is a legit helpful thing and not a cheat in any way whatsoever for athletes in India and around the world?
Well, I think there's obviously a lot of misconception that the endocannabinoid system and CBD and THC are the same thing, and they're not. And we have that issue here with athletes, and also differentiating between the pharmacological effects of THC and the difference between CBD and how CBD really affects your whole body. It affects your organs, systemic system, lymphatic system, and the different types, CB1 and 2, kind of cover the areas that we've been talking about, from recovery, sleep, exercise, performance. And I think we're all learning about that, but the misstep or the misconception that a lot of athletes have is that, oh, this is a drug. This is a real bad drug. And as you know very well, the CBD works over time. A lot of people can feel the effects right away, but it's something that you're taking in smaller doses, which affects your entire physiology. And so I just look at it as I would take, as I'd put turmeric with my vegetables at night, or curcumin, or, how it enhances inflammation. And CBD is can be very, very strong and alleviates some of the athletic issues, but it's really about health. And that's kind of what I profess. I mean, I'm, like both of you, I'm crazy about exercising daily, and I exercise hard. But I'm not in my heyday of winning world championships. I'm well beyond that. But I'm also,
You could take us both anytime, bro.
pardon me?
You could take me and Blake on
Well,
any day.
I don't think so. I think, Vanish, if you gave me a kick to the ribs, I would fold. And I'm sure Blake can outlift me in the gym, but I'm still crazy about going to the gym, but also increasing mobility and flexibility, which is part of this health thing. And yeah, anyway, I think there's lots of different fads that we've kind of looked at, Vanish, that people are adding different amino acids. Oh, you need to take this for such and such, and some are very synergistic with CBD, and also with healthy fats, which I look at in combination to sort of enhancing this whole physiological profile. So I mentioned L-glutamine, which is the most abundant amino acid, and it's stored in the skeletal muscle and also the lungs. So a lot of people that have post-exercise, the window for inflammation and particularly upper respiratory tract infections is really elevated. So when people have multiple hard days and exercise, and all of a sudden, oh, I've got a cold, it's because a lot of times the L-glutamine levels are low, and the L-glutamine levels are really depleted even in one workout. And you can look at this after you do hard, heavy lifts like Blake does, and I do as well, that your glutamine levels are low. So therefore, you've opened up this paradox in this window to say, I can get sick right now. And a lot of athletes do. And when they travel, or you have stress, work stress, not enough sleep, you've had great workouts and now you're sick and you go back to zero again. So I'll just use myself for example. The sleeping has always been an issue with me, and for the reasons we've talked about, and I try to rectify that. I never get sick. I used to travel a lot, about 100 days a year, not this year with COVID, but I travel a lot. When I walk into a room, I'm the guy. I'm on. I got to be on all the time. A lot of times when I get home, I just want to, or back to the hotel. I don't want to talk to anyone, but I don't get sick. And I think there's a lot of preventative things that we can do, and CBD fits in this huge toolbox to enhance your health.
Nice. And so we got a lot of clarity on the physiological benefits of CBD. There is even with a lot of the research out there, there is a lot of evidence pointing it that this is helpful biologically. Now, what I want to address is the psychological perception about all cannabis-based medicine. Now, CBD is generated from the cannabis plants, and you know how the media has portrayed users of the cannabis plant, like basically like, hey man, like feeble, like the guys who are like, hey bro, I need to chill, bro. So,
That was a very good invitation.
yeah,
That's exactly right. Yeah, which is
yeah.
unfortunate.
So how, what would you say to those people who would assume that guys who consume CBD may not be as serious as people who would instead be perhaps doing steroids? Just kidding, or perhaps doing not doing CBD. Like
Yeah.
that. Mm.
Well, I think you answered it well. I think ignorance drives a lot of people's comments, and when you don't know, and you're a huge resource because you're in the industry, and I feel like I am too. And I post a lot social media wise, and I put a quick little piece in about CBD, and I was scorned by a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah, and I said, don't let your ignorance override facts and good science. And so I've attached different science articles to it that I find add clarity. I said, read this before you come out with your ignorance. And so I think Vanish, what you're talking about is just telling the people that it comes from the same species, but when we're looking at CBD and THC, they're totally different, and we don't have the pharmacological effects. But CBD can affect your brain very positively, without feeling like you're completely loaded or you've got the munchies um, from THC. So I have to override that a lot, and with athletes that I speak to in my audience, there's a stigma that, oh, this is really bad, and I had to overcome that as well. When I was in college here in the States, my athletic roommates would smoke marijuana all the time, and they had bongs and all sorts of devices. And I say, well, you're an athlete. I said, they're always very calm and relaxed, but I said, I don't think this is really enhancing your performance. And so again, in the States, the Farm Bill that was passed in 2016 allows us to cultivate it, and the research has flourished since then. And the whole thing on endocannabinoids, the research the discovery of it is relatively new. And correct me, I think it's early 90s that we kind of started knowing about this system. Well, so the information is there, it's raw, and I just, I love to have someone come in and kick me in the knees and say, Dave Scott, you're an idiot for promoting this. How can you do this? You eat pure, you talk about these other things, and you're telling people to take CBD. And I say, yes, it fits into my profile.